Hello, my name is Thomas Park, and I wanted to share some thoughts with you about art and having a career in art. Part of the reason for bringing this up is I have a series of documents I've created called an artist toolkit, which I have available for free online, and these are some resources that anyone can use. They're almost all completely public domain. I think everything in these documents is public domain, so it's free to use. First of all, one thing I offer is a link to a document with a lot of free samples. These samples could be music, they could be video, they could be documents, images, and this material can be used by other people as raw material. It can just be enjoyed for what it is, remixed, recycled, affected, cut up, turned backwards. It's all kinds of different resources that I've collected, sound recordings, images I've created, so on and so forth. A second item, a document I refer to, contains a list of free public domain items, specifically items that are public domain. And these items are, a lot of those are completed pieces, so that might be like a work of music or a video that is finished, but that's still public domain, so that means that anyone can use that if they're putting together a film, slideshow, PowerPoint, anything, any kind of media project in which they may want to use that kind of material. They're welcome to do that. Another document I offer features live mixing consoles, and those are the live mixing consoles are these web pages I've created that have a number of sounds accessed through them, which people can use to mix live audio. So if anyone ever wanted to do a live looping show, true, these are sounds which I had collected and often created or recorded, but they can be used under the public domain to create a live show. So pretty much anyone can come in, use those various mixing consoles, and do a live show wherever there's Wi-Fi or an internet connection and some speakers. They can do that. There is a document that is about clipping, and that is clipping, you may know, if you're into digital audio, is a phenomenon where the audio is too loud and it creates an artifact or some hot sounds, or a kind of you lose part of the spectrum of sound when you clip. Clipping talks about what that is. It talks about how to avoid it. So that's a very common mistake to make as an audio person in the digital world, and it's very, very easy to prevent. Very easy to prevent. So this document talks about how to do that. And then we also have kind of my own story, which is called Your Own Life, which is all about some sort of how I became a musician, a writer, poet, video artist, and painter and printmaker. And it talks about some of the obstacles along the way. So I think the reason that I found Your Own Life an interesting thing to share through the Artist Toolkit was because if you look through my story, you can see that there were some things that I did and tried over the years that worked better than others. Particularly, for example, whenever I tried to make money off of art, it usually became very complicated very quickly. Almost all of the disagreements I've had over the years have been about money, and so I think if you look over Your Own Life, it might be kind of interesting just in terms of if you want to track what I, Thomas Park, did as my various musical acts in different genres, but also just sort of provide some stepping stones for how you might yourself be able to proceed as an artist, how you could avoid some very easy to fall into pitfalls, some very common traps as an artist. Finally, and maybe most importantly, there's a document called it's not called How to Create a Legacy, it's called Creating Your Own Artistic Legacy. Creating Your Own Artistic Legacy, but it's about how to prepare your material as an artist to be remembered after you're gone, after you pass away and die. And so as a 46-year-old artist, I was over the past couple years, I had some brushes with fatality, some people I knew, and some health issues that kind of came and went for myself. And it made me think about what was going to happen if I passed away and what would be done with all this material that I created and accumulated. So I kind of like to go over that document which is a second document, and all this material, the Artist Toolkit, and Creating Your Own Artistic Legacy, are both available at archive.org at the same hub, which is called Thomas Park Benchmark Hub. That's all free. It's all public domain. I'm not really advertising for money. This is all stuff I've shared with people. So I wanted to read that document about creating your own artistic legacy. As a multidisciplinary artist in his late 40s, it occurred to me a couple of years ago, what happens when I die? What happens to all of my music, my prints, and my writings? The story goes that when Franz Kafka passed away, people were gathered at his residence. A stack of papers was discovered, and someone proposed that the papers be thrown into a fireplace and incinerated. Max Brod, Franz's friend, was fortunately there, and he persuaded the group to give him the papers. These papers turned out to be such classics in existential fiction as The Trial and The Castle. Let's face it, when you go, you may or may not have a friend like Max Brod. Your spouse might not understand your work or how you saved it. Your children may not. No one may know. So it comes back to you. Now, in 2017, I began a process of archiving my works to prepare my own legacy. The first step in doing so is to assemble, and if necessary, to digitize anything that you would want to keep. The material has to go to several places. First, there should be at least one, but preferably several, physical archive spots. We say now external drives, external hard drives, whatnot. The better organized these are, the more effort you will save others. So I would recommend that at least 2 locations exist for the drives, and that the drives should be identical to each other as much as possible. So if a natural disaster occurs, then there's going to be a remaining physical drive. I think it's also helpful to be sure that the people who have these drives are trusted friends or relatives, people you really can count on, and be sure that they have instructions about what to do with them, either in an email or in a document on the drive itself, or both. So if at point down the future someone says, hey, I'm really interested in Thomas Park's prints, they should be able to go to that document and take a look at that and see where is that material available, and how did I want it to be shared. The more material I can provide for other people, the less they have to make decisions on their own later, which they really shouldn't have to do that, I think. So another consideration is to think about how your work is going to be shared. Maybe you don't want anyone to enjoy your art after you die, or you don't care what happens to it. Some people say that. They say they're gone, so what? But if you do want your art to survive you, and many do, I wouldn't leave it up to others to decide how to present it. I would recommend doing that yourself, and doing that in a way that you intend. I personally have made good use of a public archiving site called archive.org. Archive.org has a main goal to preserve culture, and if an artist wants to preserve a legacy, it's a great place to do that. It's also free. I personally believe that archive.org is going to be around a long time. I think it has longer legs than most similar media sites. It's not proprietary. It has a big public funding, and I guess I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be around for a long time. So using the archive is easy. There are instructions on the site for how to contribute material. Notably, there are some community collections for text, audio, and various other media, video, so forth. For the community collections, you don't have to curate your own collection. You can add individual items. So if you don't have 50 zillion things, you can just add one album, one EP, one print, one essay, poem, so on and so forth. Once your material is archived online in a way that you feel comfortable, it becomes accessible to other people, and it will remain so indefinitely. And so that way, you don't have to worry about someone else either not sharing your efforts or somehow misrepresenting your work. Now, there is one catch. Archive.org works off of a Creative Commons model. It's about providing free access to culture. So as an artist, you might want to determine which type of Creative Commons license or public domain or so forth you want to use. But the catch is you can't sell them through the archive. You're not going to be getting any money off of this material. Your family won't either. Once they're there, they become pretty much impossible to sell. I believe it is wise for people to create their own artistic legacies. it's really never too soon to begin. The more effort a person puts into their own legacy and how it is presented, the better chance it's going to be carried out in a way that the person themselves would want. I recently had a friend pass away to mention. It was very unexpected. My friend was a musician, and he didn't have time to prepare his legacy. He didn't know he was going to go. And as a result, he left behind 2 cases of 4-track tapes. And I will say the digitization and archiving of those tapes became kind of tedious and time-consuming. It was a labor of love that we did for our friend, but what I felt through the whole thing was, I really wish he had told us, he had been able to tell us what he wanted us to do, what he wanted us to save, and how, so we didn't have to go through this whole thing not knowing that. And knowing my friend, he would have wanted to do that. And I think if my friend, the musician who died suddenly, would have preferred to tell us what to do with his material and work, wouldn't you want to do that with your work? Why not start now? Why not begin to tell us, the rest of the world, how to remember you? If you'd like to see the main hub for my own personal online legacy, and I would also recommend this because this is where this document and the other documents I referred to can be found, and it's all free and it's all public domain, and there's no malware, and it's just stuff I've put up to be available. It is at the website archive.org, so it's at https://archive.org/details/Thomas Park Benchmark Hub. So https://archive.org/details/Thomas Park Benchmark Hub. And there's a dot between the archive and the org, in case you didn't guess that. I'm going to try to put that on the screen as text as well, so people can see that. So if you're an artist, if you want a good idea to go to that website, bookmark it, save the link, and you've got access to not only this material, but a lot more that you can use to work out some of these issues as you begin to mature as an artist. Thanks for your time for listening to the video and the audio here, and I hope the things I've thought of that I hope you find them helpful as well, and have a nice day. Thank you.